Good day, world. This is Maria Liberati, and welcome to my podcast, The Maria Liberati Show, where food meets art, travel, and life. Lots of recipes, culinary stories, travels, and more from my Gourmand World award-winning book series and blog, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking. I can officially be called a Philadelphia Italian market baby. You see, I was inspired early on at the age of 4 by my shopping trips to the Italian market in Philly with my grandfather to get fresh breads, cheeses, pasta, vegetables, and fruits for our large, unforgettably flavorful Sunday dinners. Fast forward to a trip to Italy for my modeling career that became a 20-year life-changing experience that included learning old world winemaking, cheesemaking at my family's vineyards and farm, studying the culinary arts, truffle hunting, having my portrait done by a famous Italian artist, working with some remarkable Italian chefs, doing culinary programs at some of Italy's most beautiful resorts and vineyards, creating my book series and trademark, appearing on Italian TV, and having my blog about Mozart featured in the National Museum of Vienna, Austria. And my 300,000 blog subscribers can attest to all this. I'm looking forward to having you as a special guest during my podcast with other interesting, fun, and entertaining special guests where we will be making a connection through food to art, travel, and life. Hope to see you then. This is Maria Liberati, and welcome to my compilation series of podcasts. You know, I've interviewed many interesting guests on many different topics, so we thought we'd put the guests together per the topics that they talked about, and this one is on wine. If you like wine, like reading about wine, or a wine aficionado, you're going to love this. And as always, I'd like to tell you some interesting facts about wine that you may or may not already know. So, did you know that wine actually has ancient history, ancient beginnings? Wine has been enjoyed for thousands of years. The oldest known winery dates back to about 4100 BC and was discovered in Armenia. Champagne bottles are made from thicker glass to withstand the pressure from carbonation. The pressure inside a champagne bottle is about 3 times that of a car tire. I bet you didn't know that. There are some health benefits. Moderate consumption of red wine has been linked to various health benefits, including a lower risk of heart disease and stroke, but that is what some research says, so you'll have to do your own research. The smell of young wine is referred to as an aroma, while a more mature wine offers a more complex bouquet. So if you're ever invited to a wine tasting, and I do lots of wine dinners, you know, you're going to hear people talk about an aroma or a bouquet. So now you know what the difference is. Poor weather conditions can really impact global wine production. For instance, in 2017, adverse weather led to a major drop in wine production worldwide. Did you know where the tradition of toasting with wine comes from? Well, it dates back to ancient times. The clinking of glasses was believed to ward off evil spirits. Wine can be made from more than one variety of grapes, allowing for such a vast array of flavors and styles. And next, my interviews with my special guests on all things wine. Today, I have as a special guest Jane Lopes, and she is a sommelier, author, and wine importer. And she's going to share with us some things about her latest book and also give us some suggestions for wines. You know, the holidays are coming up, so give us some suggestions for the holidays also. Jane, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Jane is joining us from Tennessee, right? Is it Nashville, Tennessee?
Yep. I live in Nashville.
I always like to mention that because, I always tell people if you can't travel, we travel around. So, because usually I interview people from all parts of the world. So, we're kind of traveling to Nashville today with you. So, tell us the title of your latest book. I know we wanted to chat a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's called How to Drink Australian. So my husband and I spent 3 years living in Australia, working in restaurants and the wine industry over there. So not only can we travel to Nashville, then we can travel to Australia a little bit. We just fell in love with the country and particularly the wines. And we felt like there wasn't a very complete story of them being told in the United States. So in addition to coming back to the US in 2020 and starting to import Australian wine, we decided that, there should be a book on Australian wine. So we undertook that project in early 2021, and it just published last month in the US, September 12th in the US.
Oh, wow. That's great. You live there in Australia and you're working in the wine industry. So tell us about how to drink Australian. So I guess it's about how to drink Australian wines or how to drink like in Australia, how to drink wine like in Australia.
Mainly about the wines. But also there is a lot of kind of cultural stuff about Australia, about how people drink wine in Australia, but also how people make it and talk about it and think about it. And, we wanted the book to both be sort of a study reference for the professional. People going into their WSET or CMS exams could use it as a resource, but also something that really just would provide insight and an interesting read, even for just the enthusiasts who wanted to dig into Australian wine and culture a little bit. So we have the book is broken down. Each wine producing state is divided out. And then within that, there are chapters for each region. And we talk about the history and sort of evolution of wine. We talk about the terroir elements, the lay of the land. There's a part in every chapter called Hubbub. And the idea of that is really to sort of zero in on what is significant. What is really going on in each region? What are people excited about? What are they concerned about? What are the controversies? Just to give that extra bit of added insider information. And then we have producer profiles. There's over 30 original maps. There's beautiful photography. There's illustrations and artwork. It really is sort of a celebration of all that is Australian wine and culture.
Oh, that's great. Is there anything different to, say, the Australian wine culture that's different? I'm sure there's a lot of different things because it's a different country halfway around or maybe all around the world from us. Can you give us sort of a little snippet of some interesting things that might be really different than what we might expect from the US or even from Europe?
Yeah, totally. One thing that we noticed pretty early on is how and I don't know quite how to articulate this perfectly, but in a sense, people are really value oriented in Australia. It doesn't mean all wine is cheap. And in fact, most kind of small production wine is never going to be super inexpensive because Australia is an expensive place to do business in terms of expensive land and labor costs and that sort of thing. But there's a real sentiment of Australian vintners to try to present a product that really has value. So people aren't saying like, well, what's the most I can kind of get away with charging for this wine? People are saying, what's the least I kind of have to charge for this wine? So I really believe that the medium price range, let's say, what would be maybe $15 to $45 in the US for bottles in that price range, I believe they're really outbat kind of other places because people are really creating that value is really, really important. I think you can get some kind of world-class wines in that price range for Australia. And I'm not sure if that's quite true of too many places in the world. So that is sort of an interesting cultural thing where people are really trying hard to keep their prices low and to create a value.
Right, to create good quality wines at low prices. That's great. Before we finish, can you give us some suggestions for wines for the holidays that might go, kind of good with like a special occasion type of thing?
Well, obviously I'm going to recommend some Australian wines, but I can go
Yes.
outside of that.
Well, that's fine. That we fit in with the interview today. Yes.
Something that I keep ringing the bell for is Australian Grenache. There's a lot of really amazing old vine material in Australia for Grenache. You have a lot of Grenache vines that date back anywhere from 170 years old to present day, but you have a lot in that kind of 170 to 100-year range.
Wow.
And you can actually get great values for old vine Grenache. And I just think these wines have like incredible depth and complexity, and they go with a lot of different types of things, especially on a holiday table. I mean, talk about like turkey and cranberry sauce and like honey baked ham, like just perfect pairings. And so that's definitely something I always recommend people ask your retailers for Australian Grenache. Tasmanian sparkling wine is another fun thing to have on the holiday table. Tasmania is actually a perfect climate for sparkling wine. It's around the same temperature, if not a little bit colder than Champagne. So you get these really sort of chiseled, delicate, complex, high acid, bright sparkling wines that are really, really lovely. So that's another one that we always recommend and would be kind of perfect for the festive holiday season.
Definitely. I didn't know there was a sparkling wine and that Tasmania made a sparkling wine. That's really interesting because, for the holidays, people usually like to have, sparkling wine at their table. Yeah. So that definitely makes an interesting choice. It's an interesting way to get to try Australian wines if someone has not done that already. So, Jane, tell us where we can find the book. And the title, again, is How to Drink Australian. Is that correct?
Yep. And there's a website for it called howtodrinkaustralian.com. Easy to remember. And we have information there on the book. We have options for how you can purchase it. So that's how you can find us. And if people are on Instagram, they can follow us at Oz Wine Legends, AUS Wine Legends.
Okay.
And we're constantly doing events and stuff. So no matter where your listeners are, we're probably doing an event there in the next, 6 to 8 months. We're doing a lot of tastings and dinners and events all over the country. So it's a good time to go out there and try some Australian wine.
Definitely. That's great. Well, thanks so much. And I'll try and make sure we put some of those URLs up on the site for this podcast, the MariaLiberattiShow.com. People will find that. For those of you out there listening to this in audio, it's going to be up on YouTube in video. Jane, thanks so much for being here and much success with everything. And hopefully we'll have you back in the near future.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. Great to meet you.
Thanks. You too. Join me on a mouth-watering journey through Italy with my Gourmand World Award-winning book series, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking, which brings you authentic recipes, heartwarming stories, and a dash of Mediterranean magic. Whether you're a seasoned chef or a beginner, these books will awaken your inner food artist. Get ready to say ciao to delicious adventures. You can find the Gourmand World Award-winning book series, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking, at Amazon.com on Kindle and on MariaLiberati.com and the publisher's website, artoflivingprimamedia.com. Today, we're here with Michelle Mandro. She is the founder of Wine Country Women, and she's going to tell us all about that. Sounds like it's very, very interesting. And also, she's going to tell us about some suggestions for wines for the upcoming holidays, Thanksgiving and all the holidays coming up. Michelle, thank you so much for being here.
Well, Maria, it is a great pleasure to be with you today.
Great. So tell us a little bit about Wine Country Women. And I guess, how did you decide to start that?
Well, first of all, I would say that Wine Country Women is a luxury entertainment brand. We are the only organization that allows you to read about, hear from, and meet trailblazing women in wine country. So we're more than a product. We are a community. And how I got here is kind of unique. I relocated to the Napa Valley in 2005 as the executive director of the American Institute of Wine and Food, which was started by Robert Mondavi and Julia Child. And in 2012, I had this great idea for a lifestyle television show that was going to place a spotlight on women in wine country. And it was just going to kind of like pull the curtain back and let people see what wine country was all about through the eyes of a diverse group of women. And I tried to make that work for over a year. And all the production companies and producers were excited to talk about it. But at the end of the day, they all wanted it to be a table turning, trash talking show. So you got to remember, this is 2012.
Yes.
So in the height of kind of the housewives shows. So that wasn't the type of show that I wanted to do. So ultimately, I thanked the group of women that had embraced this concept that I had to be a part of this show. I thanked them for their support and their participation. I said, I'm putting this aside. And several months passed and people would say to me, whatever happened to that television show you were trying to make happen? And I said, well, apparently nobody had watched it. And they're like, oh my gosh, I so would have watched it. And I said, well, thanks so much. And several months continued to pass. And then I had this epiphany. I could take the concept for that television show, which I originally pitched as Robin Leach's Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous with a little bit of Food Network and a pinch of organic housewives, kind of take that concept and apply it to a series of books, and maybe the television show would come. So all of a sudden, out of the blue, I was creating this business called Wine Country Women. And I partnered with a Bay Area publisher on my very first book and launched my first book in 2017. And Wine Country Women was born.
Wow. And is it a TV show now? It
is not a TV show. There has been a lot of conversations since we've started Wine Country Women, and we are actually in conversation about producing 3 different shows now. So there's still the possibility that my original concept will come about. And it's an exciting time. I have 3 books out now and 2 that are due out next year. And then I'm going to kind of take a hiatus from books for a while. But it does look like the television show is finally going to come to fruition.
Yes.
So it's almost, 11 years later.
It takes a while. And I know when I had first started, I was approached by these companies that wanted to do, production companies wanted to do like these trashy versions of food and all that. And I just I didn't go with it. And I ended up doing something with PBS where they let me just do what I wanted to do. But that was about 5 or 6 years ago. And that was just a short run series. So I know exactly what you're talking about, but now you probably can kind of run with it on your own. But it sounds like, with all the books you have, that keeps you really busy. I know. So,
well, yes, the books have kept me very, very busy. They feature a lot of women and there's a lot of corralling to get information, but it's allowed us to really create this fantastic community that we have. So I'm very grateful for what we've been able to create, even though the television show hasn't materialized quite yet.
Wine Country Women. So are they about women in the wine industry? Is that what it is?
So the books, I say, capture a snapshot of the wine region through the eyes of the women who live there. And so each book has a focus on, I say, beverage and culinary, but heavy on the wine industry. So a lot of winery owners and winemakers, but you'll get the occasional cheesemaker or restaurateur or chef in the books as well. And so what's great about these books is they're coffee table size books. So they look great in your home, but they double as cookbooks.
Oh, yes.
Each woman is featured with a favorite family recipe and a suggested pairing. So the book is segmented out like a cookbook. So what's great for the consumer is they can look like a wine pro because they can create their own wine dinner at home by pulling a recipe and a pairing from each category.
Wow, that sounds definitely great. And does each of your books like focus on a region, a specific region? Is that, okay.
So I have 2 Wine Country Women of Napa Valley books. My first book was Napa Valley. So the idea was to do my domestic trilogy. So I was going to focus on what I believe to be the 3 best wine regions our country had to offer. So it was going to be Napa Valley, Sonoma County, and Willamette Valley. Then we had that little thing called the pandemic, which is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes, exactly.
And I ended up creating a second edition of our Napa Valley book, which is basically a updated, condensed version of our first book. And then with my Willamette Valley book, I opted to bundle in Walla Walla. So now I've got this book with the longest title ever, Wine Country Women of Willamette Valley and Walla Walla. Say that a few times.
Yes.
And that's the third book in the trilogy. So that book comes out next spring. And then I have a completely different book, which is my 5th book that I'm very excited about, which is Wine Country Women Heritage Families. So it won't have recipes in it, but it is highlighting 50 women that are continuing their family's tradition of grape growing and or winemaking, which was established 50 or more years ago. So, we're celebrating these women whose families were really pioneers. And so it'll talk about a lot of traditions, anecdotal stories. What I really love about this book is it features women from around the world. So we've got France, Argentina, Italy, I think New Zealand also included in there, and then up and down the West Coast. So it's a book of women from around the world. It's a very fun and exciting project.
That sounds really interesting. Tell us about, for the holidays coming up, any special recommendations for wines that you're going to have at your holiday table?
Well, personally, my go-to are sparkling wine, champagnes, and rosés.
Yes.
Because it's very hard to go wrong with any of those wines. They pair almost perfectly with anything that you're serving. Plus, sparkling wine and champagnes are celebratory anyways, so it always puts people in a festive mood. But if you want to get a little more specific, with Thanksgiving approaching, what's great with a good roasted turkey is a nice crisp Chardonnay or a really fruity Pinot Noir. Would be great to serve. And honestly, sometimes I like to give my family and friends, options. So I'll put both of those wines on the table and let them, experiment and find what pairs best for them.
That's a great idea, because people don't realize sometimes, it's all subjective. I mean, there's rules to pairing, but everyone has a different taste kind of panel. So that's a great idea to let people to choose, would they like to pair with their meal.
And I think in this day, I was raised, white wines, white meats and seafood, and red wines with red meat, and that rule's kind of out the door now.
Yes, it is.
So you can really enjoy a fantastic Pinot with the roasted turkey, and I think have a good old time.
Yes, definitely.
For folks who like to serve ham, a slightly off-dry Riesling or really fruity Zinfandel works really nicely. So again, setting your table and having a couple of bottles and, toss in some sparkling wine there too. And I think you'll make everybody happy.
Definitely. That sounds like a great idea. Tell us where everybody can find your books and more info on Wine Country Women.
Sure. So all of our books are on our website, which is winecountrywomen.com. There is our very first book can be found on Amazon, but you can also find it on our website too. And you can learn about all the great things that we've got going on with Wine Country Women on our website if you go to our shop page. So we've got 2 annual events that we do a year. So our next one is our International Women's Day event. So you can see that event. We have Vitaly Tatanjay from Champagne, France. That's our keynote speaker. It's going to be February 25th. So you'll see that on our shop page as well as our books. We've got a scholarship that we've created, so you can donate to that. Pretty soon, we'll be auctioning off wine from our International Women's Day event as a fundraiser for our scholarship. So that's something else people will be able to, get a raffle of, if you will. So a lot of good information on our website, including a list of our community of women. We've got about 300 plus women that are part of the Wine Country Women family. So you can see that in the women's tab.
In the past few years, I have to say that when I do like a lot of personal appearances at different like consumer events, I've met a lot of women that are taking over these vineyards. So it's very interesting. And I think it's definitely happening. I was just so impressed because I've met a lot of women that are running vineyards, which is really neat.
It's slowly more and more women are coming to the industry. And what we try to do is educate people on the different roles that are available and, provide them that scholarship funding to help support their interests to pursue a career.
I know there are lots of females out there that want to get in that. And of course, when people think of it as a typically male profession, dominated, they don't know where to begin. And it sounds like Wine Country Women definitely as a great assistance or help for something like that.
Sure. And I would also share that we have a podcast with over 190 shows. Each one of those shows, which averages about 30 minutes, gives you a chance to learn about this woman in wine country, not only her career, but her personal life in wine country too. So it's a great way to get to know, different women throughout Sonoma County and Napa Valley, Willamette Valley, and beyond. It's a great way to learn how people come to the wine industry. There's basically three ways. You either follow a dream, you marry into it, or you grew up there.
Yes.
So it's fun to hear everyone's personal stories.
Definitely. Great. Well, Michelle, thank you so much for being with us. Happy holidays and much success. And hopefully we'll hear from you in the near future. Keep us posted and reach out again. We'd love to have you on again.
Well, Maria, you've been fantastic. And I'm so honored to have the opportunity to be here with you today.
Thank you. Thanks again, Michelle. Take care.
Thanks, Maria. Happy holidays.
Discover the timeless secrets of Italian cuisine with a Basic Art of Italian Cooking series by Maria Liberati. That's me. From fragrant basil to silky olive oil, each page is a culinary masterpiece. Taste the passion, embrace the tradition, and create your own masterpieces in the kitchen with my Gourmand World award-winning book series, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking. Buon appetito, and you can find the books on Amazon.com, Kindle, on marialiberati.com, and on the publisher's website, artoflivingprimamedia.com. Hey, thanks for listening to the Maria Liberati Show, and thanks to my special guest who made this episode on wine. You can check all my podcasts for some other compilation episodes that we will have on different topics like home and garden and pasta and pizza and books and entertainment. So we have lots of very interesting topics that we've put together for many, many different episodes. And you can hear all my new episodes also. We have lots of interesting guests coming up in the very near future. So please check out the Maria Liberati Show. You can hear it anywhere podcasts are heard, and you can always find me at marialiberati.com, on Instagram at Maria Liberati, on Twitter or X at Maria Liberati, on Facebook at Chef Maria Liberati, on Pinterest at Maria Liberati, on LinkedIn at M Liberati. And you can find some of the video of our podcast and some of my cooking video on our YouTube channel, which is just called The Maria Liberati Show. And you can find a lot of videos on Vimeo.com. Just look for Maria Liberati. and my Gourmand World Award-winning book series, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking. You can find that at artoflivingprimamedia.com, on Amazon, on Kindle, on marialiberati.com, and really anywhere books are sold. If you can't find the books, just email us at info@marialiberati.com and we'll find a copy for you. And if you're really into wine, you may want to check out a book that I had the pleasure of doing the English translation to. It's an award-winning book in Italy. In English, it's called How Wine Can Change Lives, and it was written by wine journalist. She's an award-winning Italian wine journalist, Laura Donadoni, but I had the pleasure of translating it, and you can find it on Amazon and on Kindle and on artoflivingprimamedia.com. How Wine Can Change Lives. I want to leave you with this interesting thought from Louis Pasteur about wine. He said, "A bottle of wine contains more philosophy than all the books in the world." And until next time, peace, love, and pasta.